Today, we are going to review Viticulture, a game about winemaking. In this same review, we are also going to cover its legacy-style expansion set, Tuscany. By legacy style, I mean that as you go through the solo campaign, or the multiplayer campaign if you're playing multiplayer for some reason, then there is a way that you can add expansions gradually to your game, changing it as you progress through the campaign, which makes for a much more interesting experience. How interesting? And is this game worth your money? Worth lots of your money? Because this game is not cheap at all. So let's find out. This is the board for Viticulture, the base game. As you can see, it's very beautiful. I quite like all of the pastoral details of the vineyard and the farm and the little places where you can get new vines for planting, or you can get wine orders. The place on the river where you can fill your wine orders and get money for them. It's all very scenic and it's lovely. Even the individual player boards have the same aesthetic. So I really quite like the art here. So this is a worker placement game. And as you can see, there are specific areas you can place your workers and gain the benefit of that space. Your goal is to score enough victory points to increase your reputation beyond that of the AI. You start off with 2 regular workers and a grand worker. And the game is divided into 2 seasons: spring, summer, fall, winter. During the first phase of the game, you place your workers, if you choose to place them at all, on the spring summer spaces. So I could, for instance, say, okay, I'm going to go here and draw one vine card. Now, because this is a solo game, you don't have access to the other yellow circle. So there's only one yellow circle in which you can place your worker. So you couldn't, for instance, place your worker here and get the bonus of drawing another card. However, that's what the bonus tokens are for, and I'll explain that later when I get to Ultima. I could go here and play one of the summer visitor cards. Now you'll start with some visitor cards, or you'll draw them as we pass from summer to fall. You'll draw visitor cards either from the summer deck or from the winter deck. And these give you special abilities. For instance, he allows you to pay 4 to draw 3 wine orders all at once, or discard 1 wine token and 3 visitor cards to gain 3 victory points. Or you can go here to sell a grape token for money. You can go here to give a tour to gain money. You can go here to build structures. And of course, if you go here, you can plant vines in your fields. Now let's go into the fall part, the fall-winter part. You can go here to draw a wine order. So for instance, this one says, I deliver 1 7 value white wine and a 6 value white wine. I'll get 5 victory points and a residual payment of 2 lira. If I go here, I can pay 4 lira to train 1 worker. If I go here, I can choose to harvest a field, and we'll discuss harvesting field in a moment. If I go here, I can play winter visitor cards, and those act like the summer visitor cards, except they're a little different. They're more focused on harvest and filling wine orders and making wine tokens. And here you can make wine from grapes that you've harvested. And here you can fill a wine order, and you fill wine orders, as we saw before, to get victory points and thereby increase your reputation and to get residual payments. But in the solo game, this is where the bonus tokens reside. And it's also kind of the round counter as well. You're going to take your little rooster meeple And at the beginning of every round, you're going to choose one line to take the bonus token from. So for instance, I go here, I'll get 1 lira. If I instead went here, I would get a summer or a winter visitor card draw. If I went here, I would get a victory point straight up. If I go here, I get a temporary worker for this year. So he acts as an extra worker. So as you go through each round, you can only go to places where there's a bonus token. Once you've taken a bonus token, you can save those up. You can then use it to place on a spot and then take the bonus of any of the spots available, even if they're not normally available for you. So for instance, I place a worker here and I can spend a bonus token in order to draw a second vine card. So you may be asking yourself, okay, so if that's how the game works, it's a worker placement game, how do we tell the Automa, the AI, where to place its workers? Every summer and winter, so twice per round, you're going to draw a card for the Automa, and you'll follow the directions of the appropriate season. So green and yellow in the base game represent the spring and summer season, so this half of the board. The autumn and winter is represented by the other half of the board. So if I drew this card in summer, the Automa would go before me. So it says that Automa takes the draw a vine card spot and the build one structure spot. And also the plant one vine spot. So all those places Automa just went, you can't go there anymore. However, you have an ace in your pocket, the Grand Worker. And the Grand Worker can be placed in an area and take that action even if there's another worker there, even if that other worker is your own. So that's a way to take an action twice. Let's talk about what happens on your player board. So as you'll notice, there are little shadows here and there representing structures that you can build. And once you build them, you can gain the benefit of that structure. So the simplest and earliest structures that you'll probably want to build are, let me find it, the trellis. As you can see, the structures are also little shaped meeples, structure meeples. So this is the trellis. It goes here, and as you can see, it costs 2 lira to build that trellis. And the reason you build the trellis is that you see the cards, vine cards, and you see a little structure up in the left corner. That means that requires that structure in order to be planted in the field. So for instance, this Pinot has a requirement for a trellis. We've got a trellis right here, so we can plant it in any one of these fields. Now this Merlot has a different requirement. It needs irrigation. So once you build irrigation, which is also a meeple, goes there. And that means you can now plant Merlot vines. Some, like this Chardonnay, require both structures. So as you can see, here are some wine cellars down here. The small wine cellar costs 4. The large wine cellar costs 6. It's only by using the medium size cellar that you can have higher quality wines. So see, these are white. This holds red and white wines from 1 to 3. But the medium cellar can hold wines from 4 to 6. And it can hold red wines, white wines, and rose wines. And if you have the large cellar, you can have even more higher quality wines in red, white, and rose, and you can also have sparkling wines. But those are the main structures to be concerned about. There are other structures like the tasting table that lets you gain victory points when you give tours. There's the windmill that allows you to get victory points whenever you plant plant a vine. And so grapes are in your crush pads, wine is in your cellar. At the end of every year, they'll age, and to age them, you just push them one number upwards. So for instance, if this was at 6, it would go all the way up to 7 down here. And this would go to 6, and this would go to 8. And fill those orders, get the residuals, build your structures, build more structures to get more victory points, and that's the game. So now that we've covered the base game, let's discuss the expansion. So there's quite a bit that comes in this box. So you can already see there's the Vineyard Chronicle where you record your campaign results. There's different boards to expand your player board, like so. Halfway through your campaign, you will progress to the point where you can play with the expanded board, which is huge. Look at that. It's beautiful. And it's got an advanced side, which includes spaces for the new cards, which are the structure cards, which I will be discussing in a little bit in some more detail. But, huge board, more spaces to go, more things to do, and yet the AI is still as annoying. That's quite an achievement. Packed here is Ultimo is packed in here. I've now packed it with the base game because it's so darn useful, but the expansion box is still the way to store all of the expansions. So let me go through a few of these. Every single little box in here is an expansion. If you get certain editions of this box, you get metal lira coins, like these. Very nice. Let's go through a few of the more interesting expansions. So here's the Mama and Papa's expansion. So basically you inherit certain items from your mama and your papa, which varies your startup selection. So for instance, your mama always gives you 2 little workers and a variety of cards to start with, while your papa will always give you a grand worker, some money, and the option of selecting a structure or a victory point, or getting that money instead. So for instance, this papa gives you a cottage, this papa gives you a cellar, this papa gives you a trellis. It's a very nice way of modifying the setup each time, and to give you that little bit of a push ahead so that you can actually beat Ultima on the easy level. You've got the different workers. So you have special workers you can pay an extra lira to train, and they have special abilities like the Traveler. You may place the Traveler on any open action space in a previous season, regardless of the action spaces available based on player count. Immediately take that action, and you take that bonus if you landed on a bonus space. Oracle, when you draw cards with the Oracle, draw 1 extra card of the same type and discard 1 of the cards you drew. You may not draw more than 1 extra card per turn with the Oracle, so that's nice as well. The Messenger basically travels into the future. The Farmer always gains a bonus. These are nice. These are very nice ways to sort of spice up the regular workers in the game. You can still get regular workers, but they're more boring. And you can have patronage, where if you deliver a 5-value wine, you get 3 victory points. But then if you additionally complete your secret goal, you get an additional 2 victory points. And that can mean a lot of difference between beating Ultima and not beating Ultima. Let's see here, what else? There's the property expansion, which I will never play without. And with property, you replace each field with a $7 property, a $5 property, and a $6 property. So the point of properties is that you can sell them for their amount early on in the game and get that amount of money. This helps with some of the money tightness in the early part of the game. So very nice. And if once you've sold them, you can buy them again and flip them back to their side. That lets you plant vines on them. I like it because it also means that the 7 value field can hold up to 7 in grapes. The 5 holds up to 5, the 6 holds up to 6. Having that 7 grape field is very nice. Let's see here. Oh yes, I was discussing this a little bit earlier, but you have the special structure cards, which allow you to build, well, interesting structures that help you with victory points. For instance, this has a residual of a vine card, so that means at the end of every year, you get a vine card along with your residual payments. Here, you can gain 2 victory points for discarding 2 visitor cards. Here you have a residual of a wine card. These are all very varied, and I quite like these because they add a lot of variety to the kind of structures you build in the game. It's no longer just, oh, a tasting table, a cottage, and whatever. And while these do not have nice meeples, they do have very nice abilities and illustrations. You have advanced visitors who do different things. Oh, that was new visitors. You have the advanced visitors as well, who are like the old visitors, but additionally do 2 different things so that they're good in both the beginning game and the end game. Yes. So these are, look at all these meeples. These are for the special workers expansion. And what else? Okay, let's discuss the mini boards. So this is pretty simple. It's a place for you to place your structures. You can also place your structures in your fields now, except that you can't grow any vines there once you do. And here are the most interesting expansions to the player board: the Arboriculture expansion and the Formaggio expansion. In Arboriculture, you can grow trees like apple trees, tomato trees, and olive trees. And you can store apples, you can make tomato sauce, you can make olive oil. The tomato sauce and the olive oil boost the value of the wine that you fulfill. And you need to keep your workers happy. Well, you don't have to. You can be a miserable slave labor lord and just deal with negative victory points. Or you can, keep your workers happy and keep hitting that 1 victory point bonus for making them happy. You'll need 2 apple trees to do that, honestly, but it's cute when you can. And in Formaggio, the cheeses that you create will affect the value of the wines that you sell. So for instance, you can pair cheese with a wine if you also place influence stars among here, which give you different abilities. And the amount of cheese you make depends on how many cow meeples you have. Everybody starts with 1 cow meeple, which you can sell if you don't want to get involved in the cheese making. But I suggest that you do because it's fun trying to figure out how that works. And cheese, unlike wine, can actually age and go bad, whereas wine never goes bad. So it's an interesting expansion, and I quite like that one too. Oh, and here are the cow meeples I was mentioning. They are quite cute. And of course, to have cheese, you need cheese sellers. So, as you can see, the expansions do make beating Ultima much easier because you have more ways to get points. So one way to toughen up Ultima after you've gotten the hang of easy Ultima, which is not easy, you can go to the normal Ultima and the hard Ultima. And with normal Ultima, as you increase the number of expansions, the ending victory points that you need in order to win increase. But one thing you can do to make it even harder is I don't know if you can actually see it because the numbers are so small, but you can make it so that at the end of each year, aka round, it built one of these structures and it scores number of points based on that structure. In this case, it starts along with you, and if it ever gets ahead of you as it adds structures and adds victory points, you lose. So you can lose early. So that's the normal Automa, and as you go up through, as you add more and more expansions, it becomes harder and harder. And then there's the hard Automa, which is even tougher. So that's the base game and the expansion. What do I think of them? Let me tell you a story. In November, I no longer had a job due to my health condition. I could not continue with my job, so I lost the ability to pay for a lot of board games. So it was quite a surprise to me that in January, on the Solitaire Games on Your Table geek list for January, I saw this game being talked about. It looked good, but I was suspicious. And then there was mention made of the Automa component that was available to play online as well. So you can have you can have a web replica of the Ultima deck and the Mama and Papa's expansion if you want, so that you can sort of play even if you just bought the base game. So I just bought the base game and I played it, and it gave me the feeling of Agricola, but in a more beautiful expansion, and a more beautiful, game. Now, I say that because it's thematic like Agricola is. The mechanics behind it blend so well with the theme that it's just one of the most thematic Euro games I've ever played. And it just is so relaxing to make wine. Even if you're trying to pace alongside Ultima and losing a lot, it took me 5 games to actually finally beat Ultima, as I learned the ropes of efficient winemaking. But it was exciting to do. It was challenging, and Ultima was a wonderful opponent. I didn't have to think for Ultima. It was driven by a deck of cards, and basically I would just draw a card, put workers where Ultima would go, and then totally concentrate on my strategy. Didn't have to think for the AI at all, and the AI still provided a challenge. And that was ultimately what won me over to investing the money to buy Tuscany. I will be eating a lot of mac and cheese for the whole Tuscany thing, but it's just elegant. A campaign mode for a Eurogame that actually changes the game as you play it. It was an excellent experience. I don't know if I would play the campaign again because so many improvements. I just like the game with all those improvements now, but I just might do it again just to see if I can beat Ultima on normal mode. Or I may just play Ultima on normal mode with a set number of the expansions and mix and match that way. There are some expansions I will never not play with again, like the property expansion, the advanced visitors, and the new visitors. I will always play with those. But the others I can mix and match and just have fun with. And the just I think there are 2 things that make this set of games a winner. That is beautiful components. Ah, the art's out of this world. It just ties into the theme so well. The second is elegant gameplay. That's thematic. The third is the solo option that comes in the game is elegant, gets out of your way, and still provides a challenge. And the fourth is the campaign mode. The campaign mode adds so much more to the game. And it's one of the most thorough expansions I've ever seen. And I have 500 games. So I've seen a lot over the years, and this is the best solo experience for a Euro game out of the box. Hands down. Now, is this going to change when Between Two Cities comes out? Possibly with a solo mode? I don't know. I would seriously consider, if you liked what I mentioned, then I would seriously consider getting Viticulture in Tuscany. I think it is worth the money. I think this is one of the very few games you actually get your money's worth out of, even though that cost is pretty high. So that's my thoughts. This is Ava Jarvis signing off, and have a great day.